Okay, so just to continue the story, as I mentioned, my grandpa, he kind of moved me toward the right wing, I feel like. But then in 2020, from like 2016 to 2020, I was a Trump fan and I was a right winger. But then in 2020, I became a left winger again. But I want to kind of describe the transition I had from right winger to left winger and how my grandpa kind of confused me and how all that happened. So, as I described, during like the 2016-2020 time, I was a right winger. So like, I'll just give an example. Like one time I went to a church in Pepperdine and they seemed to be very progressive. Like originally, apparently they were more conservative, but they became very progressive and they had a lot of race mixed faculty and black faculty and, all that. And they seemed to become very much more progressive. And like one of the faculty members who was a basketball coach, he gave a lecture, and he was like, "This is a picture of Jesus," and it showed that picture of Jesus where he's like a brown guy, and with kind of like curly hair, and like I remember when I was a left wing communist, I would have liked that, but I would have thought, I would want to think that Jesus was Jewish, but Jews are more people of color, and I want to see Jesus as like me, but I wanted to be like, yeah, Jesus, but I saw myself more as a person of color, and I didn't like white people, and I wanted to mix white people because I saw white people as a threat to the Jews, right? But then I think at that time when I became a right winger, though, right winger nationalist, and I wasn't no longer a left wing communist anti-white person. I was more like, yeah, I was kind of follow what my grandpa would teach. My grandpa would be like, it doesn't matter what color Jesus was. What matters is the flow. And Jesus taught the flow, which is transcendence of the ego. But again, like when you would first talk about this stuff, he didn't explain it well, so I didn't know what the flow was. So you'd be like, transcendence of the ego. I'd be like, oh, so you're for race mixing, like transcend the ego and be for mixing, and transcend non-dual, dualistic consciousness and be for mixing. And I listened to an audiobook where they described how mystical teachings and stuff and mysticism, and they specifically said German mysticism, and my grandpa's German, leads to race mixing, because religion helps divide people and stuff, and it keeps people founded and like on a firm foundation and stuff. And my grandpa's like, everything is one and non-dual consciousness, and that leads to race mixing. But now I know that my grandpa actually didn't teach that, though. And my grandpa would be more like, race mixing, it depends on what the software is. And transcending the ego doesn't mean that you race mix. It means that you see things as they truly are, transcending the ego. So like now I realize that when I wanted race mixing, that was my ego, because I saw myself as Jewish and I wanted race mixing. But anyways, but when I became more of a right winger, white supremacist, I was like, when the professor was, or when the minister was showing the picture of Jesus as a brown man, trying to show us all how he was actually brown and all that stuff, it's supposed to like be progressive. I was like, I didn't like it, because I'm like, yeah, no, Jesus taught the flow. And so like I said, I always think that spiritual people and like religious people tended to always be like white supremacists and more right wing, because I always, when I was a left wing communist, I was more of a I didn't like religion, and I was more like materialistic, and I wanted to see humans as like pretty much like animals, and just believe in Darwinism. I didn't want to believe in religion because I thought religion divided people, and I thought it was white supremacists. Like religions tend to be like, you have to be good, and you have to not be, you have to just be content, and you go to heaven, and kind of like Marx. I was like Marx, and Marx was like, yeah, religion just maintains the status quo and just maintains the bourgeoisie and the proletariat. And I wanted race mixing, and I wanted to destroy the society, and I wanted, I saw Jews as more people of color, and I wanted Jews to win, and to defeat the white people who were the enemy, right? Who were the enemy of the Jews. So that's the way that I was. But then I became more spiritual. My grandpa was making me more spiritual, and my grandpa's like, yeah, no, Jesus taught the flow, and it doesn't matter what color Jesus is. What matters is the flow. So yeah, I was moving more toward the right wing, and to be honest, I wanted to see Jesus as white. At that time I wanted to see him as white, and I wanted to think like, all that like propaganda, the progressive propaganda of, oh, Jesus is a brown man, and as if like brown people are superior, and I started becoming more just of a right winger. And I remember I was with my friend, I'm not gonna say his name, but we were driving, and I was like, dude, I like Trump, dude. I want a wall, and I want the wall to be 10, and my friend was like, yeah, I want a wall too, and I want the wall to be 10 feet higher. And I was like, yeah, dude. And because he's a big right winger, and we're both basically Nazis. But it's funny because he was like, my friend was like, dude, he was like, oh yeah, Bernie Sanders is a socialist. He's like Hitler. Hitler was a socialist, but actually Bernie Sanders is a communist, and he wants race mixing. And Bernie Sanders sees himself as more black, and you could tell by like the way he wears his hair and the way he like interacts with black people and stuff. And he's a Jewish guy, right? And he wants race mixing. But the thing is, like, but I knew that my friend was actually a Nazi, and I was more of a Nazi. And by Nazi, I mean a nationalist. Like, I was not for race mixing. I wanted to, maintain the white race and stuff, and he was the same way. So we're driving around, and we're talking about how we like that, and we're also both talking about how we don't think that women should vote, because I was like, a lot of women vote Democrat, and they vote for, people like Hillary Clinton or Biden, or people who are for, abortion, which I thought was bad for the white race, and for promiscuity, which is bad for the white race, and also for like they also vote for open borders. And me and my friend were talking about it, and I was like, yeah, I think that if you think about it, throughout history, enemy tribes would conquer the weaker tribes. The stronger tribes would conquer the weaker tribes. And I think, in our society, the white man is put down, and the white women are told that white people are evil, and the white men are told white people are evil. So then the white men want to become cucks, and they start to hate themselves. And that's why you see like the degradation of white men in the society. And the white women want to open the borders because they're told like these black guys or the darker races are superior, and they're actually the good guys. And they're like the movie Avatar, like, oh, they're one with nature, and they're so much superior, and the white people are evil, and they're industrialists and colonizers. And so I was like, yeah, so so I was like, white women are easy to manipulate, and and basically it's kind of like the story of, I was listening to that guy Sardania talk about this too, and it's like, he was saying like, if Satan, what did Satan do? He tempted Eve, and he's like, because women are easily manipulated, they're gullible, they're naive. And my friend was like, yeah, well, also the women want the open borders because they think, they're told that the black people and the brown people have bigger penises, and they want, the black people and the brown people to come in, and they want to mate with them, and they want, they're basically race traders. So we're both like, dude, basically Satan's taken over, and he wants to destroy the white people. But we're just like, dude, there shouldn't be votes for women. Like, women should not vote, and that's a big problem. And just like basically society's become anti-white. We're both thinking that, and we're just like, yeah, it's kind of stupid, and it sucks. And he was a big Trump fan, and I was a big Trump fan, and we're like, what's the deal? Like, these people are like, oh, we hate Trump because he's racist and he wants to build a wall. But we're like, dude, there should be a wall because there's a desire to destroy the white man, So, we're just like, yeah, this is retarded. So I basically became a right